Hey everybody, how is it going? My name is Brady, and today we're going to be going over the basics of HTML and CSS so that you can follow along with some of my other courses on my channel. So we're just going to hop straight into things. This is going to be a pretty straightforward video. A lot of explaining, but I'm going to try to do it as efficiently as I can. Trying to make these videos under 15 minutes so that they're actually doable. Like, there's some videos with the basics of HTML and CSS that are like an hour and a half long. That's way too much. That's way more than the basics. So I'm shooting for around 15 minutes, maybe 20 at max. So yeah, let's just get straight into it. So before we start with the actual code, there are going to be a couple things that you need to install, starting with your text editor. So my preferred text editor, as you can see, is Visual Studio Code. But you can also use other ones like Sublime Text or Atom, and I'm going to show you how to download VS Code and Sublime Text right now. So to download VS Code, we can just go to code.microsoft.org. I think that's the URL. Nope. Well, you can just type in VS Code in your Google search. It's code.visual studio. I was close. And then you can download right here. I've already got it downloaded, so I don't need to. Then for Sublime Text, you can just type in Sublime Text download. Text 3. Sublime Text 3 is the best one yet. And then you just come here and you click your download, and then once you do that, you just click right here and follow the download instructions. And then for Atom, you go to atom.io and you download here. And I'm not sure, but I feel like Atom is supported by GitHub because that's the little GitHub thing. Yeah, but Atom is actually a really nice one. The only reason that I use VS Code over Atom might be because VS Code has a lot more support for like plugins and themes than Atom does. But I really like Atom. That's a cool one too. So just follow the download instructions here and you'll be all set. Okay guys, so the first thing that you want to do when you're starting a new web development project is you want to make its folder. So my preferred way to do this is using the terminal. I just find it the easiest and the fastest way. If you're using a Windows machine, Linux, you guys use the same bash terminal as a Mac does. But if you're using a Windows machine, well, you can just do it the regular way. You can like right click on your desktop, new folder, like web dev, maybe web dev, go in there and create the new files. But I prefer using the terminal. So for Linux and Mac users, we can go into our preferred directory. We can make a new directory, and I'll just call this HTML CSS basics. We can change our directory into there, and we can touch or create our index.html and style.css, and I'll explain why they are called that in 1 second. So that we can go back to the previous directory and open it in VS Code. And if you don't have this extension or command installed, there's an easy way to do it. Just go and Google it on Google. How to open code from terminal is what I did. So you can just do code and then whatever your name is, and then it'll open it in VS Code automatically, which is super cool. And then we're done with the terminal. So inside of VS Code or your preferred text editor, you can open your index.html. Now before we start, there is this one little thing that I do have and I'm gonna be using is this live code extension. And to get that, you can just click this button right here. This is the extensions button. And then you can hit live server. It's by Ritwick Day, and it looks like this. So once you've done that, you can open up your index.html in your text editor, and we can get right ahead and started. So I'm going to create our boilerplate or our basic code two ways. The first way is the hard way. We can type it all manually. And then the second way, once you understand how it works, you can just hit an exclamation point. And this is a shortcut in VS Code, but we're going to do it the long way so that you guys can understand it. So our very first tag, and it has to be like this, otherwise well, it doesn't have to, but it's a standard to do this, is the doctype HTML tag. Basically what this does is when the browser, like Chrome or Firefox, is reading your file to display it on the screen, it's checking what type of file it is, and usually it already knows that from the extension .html, but if it didn't already get that, this is declaring that the type of the document is an HTML document. And HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, but that's just a bunch of mumbo-jumbo. It basically means, yeah, browsers can understand this. So right after the doctype HTML, we have our actual HTML tag. And HTML is kind of like a bunch of containers, actually, like a Tupperware container. So you can think of HTML as the biggest container. Everything goes inside of this one container, or the HTML tag. After that, you're going to have a couple sections, main sections, and this is also the standard. So it's the head. What have I done? It's the head, and then there's the body, and then not always, but usually there's also a footer tag. So you can think of this as three separate containers inside this one big container, right? Because you can see this is these two are a container, and then these are containers with nothing in them. So the HTML container has the head, body, and footer container inside of it. And we call these containers tags, by the way. And real quick, I forgot to mention this. I don't know how I'm doing a basics tutorial, but basically, when you create an HTML tag, if you want to, so this is called an opening tag, where it's just the open or the less than parenthesis HTML and then greater than parenthesis. To close this tag, you have to use the / and in VS Code it automatically does that for you. Otherwise, your code will not work at all. You have to use this / right here for it to work. Okay, so we're going to start with your head. So inside the head, we're going to have a couple of very important things. We're going to have our title, and just like every other tag, it's got an opening tag and then the closing tag with the / there. And the title is a container, and it can have a text in there. It can have text in there. So we can make our title "Hello World," and then when I hit go live, it opens it up in a browser, and right here it says "Hello World," as you can see. So that's the first thing that we've actually seen with our code. So the title is this part right here, the top part of the tab. Also in your head, which is very, very, very important, your styles. So what a style sheet is, basically, it makes the stuff in your HTML look pretty, but there's no way to do it if they're not connected. So the way to connect your style sheet is to create a link tag, and that basically, it just links it to your style sheet, or to your HTML. So you do link, and then you do rel, which basically means it's telling it like what kind of sheet it's referencing to, or like it's linking. And obviously it's a style sheet because it's CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheet. You can just ignore the cascading. Even I don't know what it means. Maybe it's because I'm just like stupid or something. I don't know. But after the rel, which is defining the type of the sheet that we're linking, we're going to do href, which is basically telling the HTML where to look for the file. So we can do href, and then as you can see, it knows that we have a CSS sheet in our folder, so we can do style.css. The link tag is a special tag in that it doesn't require a closing tag like these do. One last thing, if you want to have it in there, is you can do another link tag, and you can change the type to icon, right? And you can change the whereabouts of the icon. Let's just say we want to have, oh man, I don't have any pictures. Let's just say we can have this, we want to have this as our icon. So we can put this in our HTML basics folder, right? And you can see it's right here in our VS Code. We can do the href as, I'm not going to type this out because I can't see all the numbers, but this basically what it does is up here, maybe, I don't know what's wrong with this. Oh no, it's not working. Is it too big? Oh, never mind. Just ignore everything that I just said. But basically, that's really all that you need in your head. At the very beginning, when I did the exclamation point, you saw this stuff called meta or whatever. It's a lot. It's basically just data. It has nothing to do with code, and it does not affect the code at all. It's just saying, like, you could do a meta, and then inside here you can name it whatever you want. So you can do like dev name equals Brady, and then you can do like date equals, what's today's date? It's May 9th, so 5/9. And then meta is also the special type in which it does not need a closing tag. So that's what meta is. You can do it whatever you want, but it's not necessary. It's kind of, a lot of people who do a lot of industrial code, like a big project, can use meta, or do use meta, so that they can keep track of who's working on what. But with your project, if you're being a solo dev, you probably don't need it. So getting into our body tag, we can do a lot more stuff in here. There's a crazy amount of things, but I'm going to point out the main ones. So we're going to do, the very first one is the h1 tag, and in here you can put in any text. Most of the tags are text oriented. So with the h1 tag, it stands for header, and then 1 is size 1, which ironically is the biggest size. So we can do header 1, and then when we save that, this pops up here, right? This is our first header. There's also a h2 tag, and so we can do header 2, and this is smaller than the first one, but still pretty big. And then h3, which is a little smaller, and then h4, oh crap, which is smaller than that, and then h5, which keeps on getting smaller, and then finally h6, which is the last header tag that is, like, you can actually do. And this is actually smaller than the regular text in here. So these are the headers. It only goes to 6. So if you try to do an h7, it's just going to display as, like, you do an h7, then you do like header 7, it'll just display as regular text because there's no such thing as an h7 tag. Okay, continuing on, these are our special text, right? They're the headers. What if we just want to do like a paragraph or regular text? There's two main tags for this. There's the p tag, which stands for paragraph, and you can type in, this is a paragraph, and a paragraph will show up on your web page. And as you can see, it's actually bigger than the H5. I think it's the same size as the H4. I don't know, I gotta check. The other text tag that you can have is a span tag. And in the span tag, it's like the p tag, but when we go over CSS, you'll see how it's different. So you can do the same stuff. This is a span, and as you can see, the span pops up and it looks just like the paragraph. Once we get into CSS, I'll explain to you why that's happening. Continuing on from there, we've got the so you know how you go on a web page and there's links, right? To add a link, you need to use the A tag, which stands for anchor, right? And so anchor, you can put in, it takes another text inside these two opening and closing tags, so you can do link, or okay, let's just do Google, and Google shows up right there. And if you do an href in here, href, remember, is the location of something, so we can do www.google.com, and when we click this, it'll take us to Google here, but we don't want that. If you want this to open in a new tab, you can do target and then underscore blank, and then that will open it in a new tab like that. Continuing on from the A tag, similarly, that it works in a similar way. We have a button, and with the buttons we can do Google. How about Bing this time? Ew, gross, I know. We can do Bing, and we can add an href. I think it's, I don't know if it has a www, but we'll try. www.bing.com. We can reload that and Bing. So with the button, and this is what I'm trying to show you, href doesn't work. It's only an A tag thing. With the button, buttons are used for JavaScript, and if you don't know what that is, I'm doing a course right now where we're building an e-commerce site from scratch, and there's a lot of JavaScript included in there. But buttons are usually used for JavaScript. So inside we can do this thing called an onClick. So it's waiting for your onClick, and then we can write JavaScript code inside this. So a very basic thing is alert in JavaScript, and we can just do Bing. And you'll see what happens when we press this button, click. It creates a pop-up that says Bing. So if you ever want to create a pop-up button that creates pop-ups, this is how you do it with the button tag. Just a couple left. We've got the image tag, and this is another special tag that doesn't need a closing thing like this, just like the style.css and the meta, or the link in the meta. So inside of image, we can give it a source, right? And the source is, it works in the same way as an href does. It gives, you give it where the file is located. So we can do this JPEG, and it'll show up here, and it's super, super big. So if you want to change that, we can also change the width and the height built into HTML. So if you want the width to be 500 and the height to be 500, so that's a square photo, bam, there you go. It's kind of, looks kind of weird, but that's okay. And also, if you want this to be like below this stuff, you can put in a break tag. So this is another tag that doesn't need a closing one, and break just basically puts a space in between your code. So bam, just like that, and it puts a space in between, and now it's below this here. So that's the basics of HTML. That's usually what you use. A lot of times, actually, this is mostly what people use. And with the footer, it's basically like body, but it's Well, footer is the body, but it's just called footer. So they act in the same way, but they have different names. It's kind of confusing. Usually footer is just used to show that this is like supposed to be at the bottom of a page, because usually the footer is at the bottom of a web page, like with all the links and the social media and stuff. But you can put whatever you want in there. You can just do a p tag, and it'll show up in the same exact way that you would have it if it was in a body tag. So that's the basics of HTML. Let's jump into our very, very basic CSS, because although HTML may seem pretty easy to grasp at the beginning, or once you get a basic understanding of it, CSS is a whole different story. But don't get worried, because I'm going to help you through it. So inside our CSS file, since we already linked it back in the beginning here, it's already linked, we can go in right away and start with some CSS. Now CSS looks a lot different than HTML, and that's because they're two completely different programming languages. So with CSS, at the when you start a style, you tell the CSS what you want it to target. So if I wanted this p tag, if I wanted the text to be, I don't know, blue, we would have to say target the p, right, the p tag, and then we do curly braces to put our styles in. And so to change the color of text, we can do color and then blue. And now when we load, this is a paragraph and the color is blue, right? Some more things that you can do. If we wanted this p tag right here to be in the center of our page, we can do text align and then center, right? Because it'll center it. Bam, there you go, it's centered. And now when we move this, it'll always stay in the center of our web page. And then you can also do left, which makes it left. We can do right if we wanted to, and it's all the way over here now. So yeah, that's one of the ones that I use the most in my projects, text align, because it's just so simple and so easy to use. More stuff that we can use if we wanted to, say for example, we didn't know that we could have this width and height thing in our HTML, then this image is way, way too big to be usable. So what we could do is we could go into our CSS and we could say target the image tag and set the width to 500 and then set the height to 500. And then that, oh wait, we have to do, since we're in CSS, we have to do pixels, and I'm sure you guys are aware of what pixels are. They are these little tiny dots on the screen that light it up. So now that we've done that, bada bing, bada boom, your picture is looking mighty fine. A couple other things that we could do are background color. So if we wanted, again, if we wanted this p tag to have a background color of, let's say, beige, beige, then the background color will be beige. And as you can see, this paragraph tag, it actually is as long as the pages. It's as wide, I mean. If you wanted to change this, you could just do the width set just in the same way that the image is. We could do width, and then we could do auto, which means automatic, but that doesn't work because I'm big brain. We could do 150 pixels, and then if the text, as you can see, the container of the P basically gets smaller. So if we made this like 50 pixels, then the text would go down like this, as like if you drag a box in Word or something. So we can just take out this width because we want our text all nice and pretty. And there we go, it's nice and long again. As you can see here, it's not affecting just this p tag, it's affecting every p tag in the entire web page. So, hey Birdie, you may ask, how do I make it specific? To make your styling specific, we can use these things called classes. So if you go back into your HTML, say you want this paragraph right here to look different than this paragraph right here in the footer. What you could do is you could use a class, and you can name this 1, write that, and then you could have another class down here and make this 2. So now they're different. They act the same because our style hasn't changed yet. To incorporate a class into our CSS, we use the dot or the period to indicate that it's a style, and then we use the name of the style, which it would be 1. It's giving me an error because I'm pretty sure I'm not allowed to use numbers. So let's just make this A, and then we can do this B. Go back in here, make this A. It's all good and fine. And now only this one is affected because we're being specific with our style using a class. If you want to make this B1, still have the color of blue, but maybe you want the background color to be like brown. Then you could have the background color as brown. Looks more red to me, but the text color is blue and the background is brown. And these are specific even though they're the same tag. See, they're both p tags, but they have different classes, right? One more thing for this basics tutorial. Say you don't like these super sharp edges right here. Maybe you want them curved, right? We can use this thing called a border radius, and this basically just curves your item. So since we can see the background color, if we want our border radius to be 5 pixels, we can make it 5 pixels, and then up here, as you can see, it's curved. If you want to see a more extreme version, we can just do 50 pixels, very curved, but this actually looks very nice. Blue text on beige with a curved background. And also, you could text align center this, and it would look even better. Text align center. Bam, there you go. It's in the center of a curved box. Just super cool. So yeah, guys, you don't have to make these in this specific order with this specific name. You can put whatever you want inside of these tags, and then you can. These are actually the same styles that I started off with in my coding career. So just fiddle around with these a lot, and then once you think you've got them down, I've got another course that I'm going to be uploading to a lot. We're building an e-commerce store. And once you've understood this stuff, that will be a breeze, and you'll learn so many new things with this new course. It'll be crazy. You'll learn new CSS, new HTML, and you'll even learn a bit of this dynamic programming language called JavaScript, and it's super cool and it's super powerful. So guys, thank you for watching. I'll put the source code in the description for this in case you didn't want to copy it all down and you just want to download it and fiddle around with it. So yeah, guys, thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. And when you get this down, check out the e-commerce tutorial playlist. It'll be on my channel, and I promise it will totally increase your programming power. Alright, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.